Hi, everyone. Welcome back to It's All Light. I'm Natalie Baugh, and today I'm so excited. I have one of my best friends here with us. Hi, Aubree.
Hi, everyone.
This is Aubree Vargha. And Aubree, just to get us started, what's been a highlight for your summer? Just tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, this summer I've been in Idaho. I just moved to Idaho last year, and so this is my first summer in Idaho. And I have gotten to go boating a lot this summer, which has been so fun. So
We
I've
love
learned how
that.
to, yeah, I've learned how to wake surf, which has been, it's really fun to see like my progression throughout the summer because I literally had never done it before. And to like being able to kind of carve and stuff. So it's been
Way to
really fun to
go.
just learn a new skill.
I love that. Yeah. You post the funnest pictures. So if you want to follow Aubree on Instagram to see her summer adventures, Aubree, is it just at Aubree Varga?
Yeah, it's just my first and last name.
That'll be in the show notes. So, Aubree, tell us a little bit more about yourself.
Yeah, well,
Jumping in.
I've grown up a few different places. I was born in Michigan, technically, and then I lived in Northern California, and then we moved to Northern Arizona, which is where I'd say like the majority of my childhood was. And then I claim California as where I'm from. I lived there for like middle school and high school years. Which is super fun. And I have 5 siblings. There's 6 of us in our family, for kids, and it's been fun. I'm a middle child, but I love being a middle child. Feel like I get the best of both worlds with having, like, younger siblings and older siblings, and, um, yeah, Natalie and I met
Agreed.
doing EFY is
Woo
how we met, and
woo.
so, like, I love those ages, and we met in Utah and have been friends for a while now.
Yeah, I think that was circa 2018. So it's been maybe 5 years, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 4 years.
Yeah.
I had to count that on my fingers. That's embarrassing. But yeah, I remember meeting Aubree. We were in the same little dorm for our training as EFY counselors. And then we just stayed friends the whole summer. And ever since then, we both love dancing. She's an incredible dancer. She danced all growing up
Not
and
really.
on, well, you danced on BYU's folk team and just so good at it.
Yeah, not on, like, their best folk team, just, like, one of their beginner ones. Definitely highly recommend everyone doing it, though, because it's so fun.
Honestly, I'm not a dancer, but like if I could go back to BYU and do something else, I would have tried out for the folk team because it just looks so fun
Definitely.
and you're gonna just learn all these cultures and dances. But
Honestly,
Aubree,
it's so fun, and I could talk about that for probably way too long.
well, we might have to do another little segment in the future because I think it's so fun too and share some cool videos. But
Yeah, no, that would be
Aubree,
fun.
yeah, Aubree and I like to go country dancing a lot, and that's been
Mhm,
one of our hobbies the past few years. So,
definitely.
and she is getting her master's in counseling at Boise State right now. So, Aubree
Yeah.
could also tell us a lot about what she's learning about human psychology and helping others. And just me telling her about her life. She wants to work in a high school and help those high school kids counseling
Yeah.
them. So, I think that's amazing. And it's so needed, especially in our crazy world, huh?
Yeah, our world is so crazy, and I really love the preventative side and thinking about how we can help people just set people up for success in their lives, so that's why I really like that high school age.
Amen. Well, we'll have to talk about that another time. But tonight, Aubree, what do you light up about?
Um, there's, like, a lot of things, but the things that, like, came to my mind when Natalie asked me this was that I really like about people and, like, my friendships, and then also wellness, and, like, something that's called the 8 dimensions of wellness, which people and friendships totally fit into that as well.
I can't wait to share this with you all, and hopefully, this little nugget of information will spark the rest of your day. So, people, friendships, and wellness. Let's kind of dive into the first one, people.
Yeah, I feel like people and friendships for me at least are, like, super connected and, like, I guess people just in general, it's just when you step back from yourself and think about it, it's just really cool to think about all the different people that are having different experiences in life and all the different cultures, and, like, that in itself is really cool, but to me, I guess, like, the coolest thing about people is making those connections with them, and like realizing what you have in common or don't have in common, but still being able to form these really valuable connections in your life.
Yeah, which is vital. I mean, even if you don't have similarities, they might be in your life whether you like plan to have them in there or not, right? Like maybe they're in-laws, maybe they're just random roommates or something. So like building these skills won't just help you find those support groups and meaningful friendships, but also just how to better get along with people and better understand people. I like that.
Yeah,
I sorry, I didn't get you off.
you go for it now.
I think our life, like one of the purposes, like without relationships, life really wouldn't be life. I mean, your relationship with yourself is one of those included, right? Like we need to work on that. Do you think, Aubree, that we need to work on our relationship with ourselves prior to working on our relationship with others, or do you think both can happen at the same time?
I think like there's like some truth in the whole like you have to work on yourself before you can like you can only love your others as much as you love yourself. But I truly do think that there's so much value in working with other people that like our relationships can be one of our greatest tools in working on ourselves. Like I think it's really important to get to know ourselves, but one of those ways that we can do that is by getting to know other people and forming those connections and relationships with them. And in doing that, we learn about ourselves and learn our strengths and our weaknesses and things that we do like and things we don't like, and they can help us along the way in ways that we
Totally.
maybe couldn't do on our own.
Yeah. I feel like this week I've had a few like random things I've either seen on Instagram or just have heard in a talk or something. And one of them was if you are not actively like trying to become the person you want to be, or like if you don't know what kind of person you want to be, then you're already becoming the person you don't want to be, just like by default, which is kind of an
Yeah.
interesting thought. But then the other thought is like the more we surround ourselves with the people we want to be like, the more we'll be like them. And
Right,
it
like,
really is so true.
I'm sure everyone's heard, like, the sum total of the 5 people you spend the
Mhm.
most time with, like and that's kind of that same concept, right? Like, if we want to become something, like, we should choose to surround ourselves with people who are either already doing that or are striving to do that as
Mhm.
well.
Yeah, I think that's so important. And I hope people listening will think about the people in their lives and also maybe there's people that you want in your life and how do you seek that out, right? And how do you try to be that person for someone but then have it be reciprocated? I do go to therapy and I think it's wonderful and me and my therapist we're talking about that because especially in this mid 20s age, friendships change a lot. People get married, people move. Luckily, I still have Aubree on FaceTime
Yes.
at a quick dial, but we are always trying to find these support groups of friends and it's so needed. And me and my therapist were talking about how we can build that. And it kind of does start just like trying to be that for someone you want to have in your support group and then just see if it's reciprocated. And if it's not a bad thing. You just keep trying until you find those people that you can really rely on and connect with. It's
Yeah.
kind of hard. I feel like some people are just unreliable. I'm probably unreliable at times too. So it's like it's a fine balance of what kind of people you work with, but also like what can you give? And if you go into that mentality of giving versus receiving, then the receiving will come. What do you think, Ob?
Yeah, no, totally, and I thought it was interesting how you say, like, "Oh, sometimes maybe I'm the unreliable one," but, like, I think that's what a relationship is, like, any form of a relationship, like, there's gonna be give and take, and so, like, yeah, if you're going into the friendship thinking that you're always gonna be receiving the same amount that you give, it's like it's probably destined to fail in some ways, and I know that I've, like, done that, right? Like, I've had that mindset where I'm like, "Oh my gosh, like, I do so much and, like, it's not appreciated or it's not reciprocated, but they're still like some of my best friends. And it's really just that mindset shift of like, oh no, like there's times where I need help, there's times where they need help.
Mm-hmm.
There's going to be times where we are giving the same amount at the same time, but that's probably going to be pretty rare because we're all going through ups and downs in our life,
Totally.
like all the
Well,
time.
I feel like I'm the queen of pity parties. Like, I can feel so sorry for myself sometimes. And looking back, it's like, oh, Natalie, come on. Like, you don't need to be this sad about your life and about things in your life because I don't know if I want to, you just turn on a sad song and you just sit in your car and you can cry. You can force those tears out, which
Yes,
luckily I
definitely.
can't remember the last time it happened, but it used to happen frequently because I would just be like, my life's so hard and so sad. And I was like, why isn't someone dropping me off a cookie? Why isn't someone calling me and saying, how are you? You know? When in reality, I was probably just like crying over spilled milk, you know? So I feel like at those times when we want someone to reach out is the time when we should be reaching out to others. It's the
Totally.
backwards psychology of that and what the scriptures teach, I think. But I don't know what.
Definitely. I think, like, 2 things from that, like, that come to mind. I've been listening I love Mr. Rogers, Fred Rogers, and I've been listening to a book about his life right now,
Hmm,
and just one of his, like, key things that he always talked about was just, like, owning our emotions and that, like, it's okay. Like, we can have a pity party sometimes, and it's okay to feel big feelings about even if it seems small and insignificant to someone else, it's
spilled
okay.
milk.
Yeah, it's okay to be crying
Hmm.
about it and, like, be sad
Hmm.
about it. But I totally agree with you too, like, in those moments, I have to stop and think and be like, "Okay, like, who have I reached out to? Who have I, yeah, brought that cookie to?
Yeah.
And is there anyone that I do wanna talk to right now?" And I think we get a little just like as much as it would be nice to, like, have our friends be the first ones to reach out all the time, like, sometimes like, we all have our own busy lives, and
Totally.
sometimes people are just caught up in their own thing, and
Yeah.
I just need to get over my pride and just be the one to reach out. Like, if I want
Right.
their friendship and relationship, I need to be the one to reach out, and that's okay.
Yes, and my therapist said the exact same thing. See, Aubrey, you're gonna be the best therapist. Like you're already spitting out knowledge. But yeah, she was just like, yeah, like to find that support group. She's like, and it's okay to reach out to and say, hey, I really need to talk to someone right now. And honestly, if like any of my friends or even acquaintances, like even if it was some random girl I'd met at church, like said, hey, like I'm having a hard day. Can I call you? Like I'd be like, of course. Like why? Like you could have told me like 5 hours ago when you were feeling so sad, you know. So it's like people
Yeah.
are probably way more willing. And then if they're not, then you know where they lie in your circles of people. I don't know. The
Yes,
other,
definitely.
yeah, I feel like
Keep doing that.
I try to like I've been trying to organize all the circles in my life of people I've met just to
Mm.
like in a sense keep track of them, but also just I love meeting people and I love building these connections and I feel like I want to like have a better system of remembering the people I meet and their names just because I want to be that person who could help them. But Aubrey, what else about this makes you happy like and excited to talk about it?
Oh, so I think what makes me really excited to talk about this is just, like, there are so many benefits to having friends, like, and having people in your life that are your support system. Um, like, there's just a lot of, like, physical and, like, mental health benefits to having people in your life, but also, like, I think life is really meant to be enjoyed, and personally, as an extrovert, I enjoy being around people, and, like, even more than just being around people, I enjoy being around, like, people that I know I can trust and people I know that care about me and I care about them. Like, the quality over quantity is, like, definitely real in my life. I've never been someone that has, like, a huge group of friends or anything. I've always had, like, smaller groups of friends. I'd say, like, this summer is, like, one of my bigger groups of friends that I've been a part of, which has been super fun and awesome, but, like, I really do like diving into, like, smaller friends groups and really getting to know people
Mhm.
really well because there's something about that, like, mutual, like, benefit of just being heard and understood and, I don't know, connecting with people.
Yeah, and I think we all need that more than ever. Like I'm also very extroverted and I used to and I still do enjoy parties of so many people and you're going to go talk to everyone and you're just like feeling high on life. If if Remy's listening, Remy like your TikToks.
Yes,
But
Ravi's TikToks are the best.
they're true though in that extroverted mindset. But like as I've gotten like every year feel like I'm becoming slightly more introverted in that sense where it's like, oh, maybe a group of 7 people is enough because we can actually have a good time and hear each other when we're speaking instead of trying to yell over everyone else at a party. But I still
Mhm.
value big group dance parties, so
Oh, for
you need
sure.
them both.
Yeah,
Um,
for sure.
any other thoughts about people and friendships in general before we dive deeper?
Um, let me think if there was anything else that I wanted to cover. I think, like, just, like, one other thought is, like, I just moved to Idaho, right? And, um, it was really hard. Like, I know that, like, especially, like, now I was talking about making friends in this time of your life is, like, gets to be more challenging. We've both had lots of friends get married, and, like, there's just, like, a lot of transitions going on, and it's just, like, a weird time. But I think, like, 2 things to come out of that are, like, just do your best to foster the friendships you have, and I, like, know that it gets harder. I, like, watched this a little mini TED Talk the other day about that, and it does get harder to, like, foster those friendships, especially when you're, like, in different states, but I don't know, I just think it's really important to not give up on your friends, even when you don't see them all the time, um, just to try your best, and when you remember to text them, and if they don't remember to text you all the time, like, don't I don't know, like, don't give up on them and don't, like, get too hard on yourself if they don't care about you because I think about my friends, like, all the time, and I don't text them all the time, like, because
Mm,
I just am busy. I'm, like, doing something during my day, and I'm like, "Oh, I wonder how they're doing," and then I forget to text them later, and sometimes I do text them later, but just don't think that you're alone just because your phone's not blowing up all the time if you're not around your friends.
I think that's a good reminder. Just the other night, I was finishing up at the drive-thru at JCW's, and I got so swindled by them. It was so expensive, and it was
I
good,
know,
but
they're
oh my
so
gosh, it
expensive.
was literally every add-on for my shake, and anyways. But then I got a phone call from a friend. Shout out to Christopher Belknap. He's like the best at this. And he just called me out of the blue. It was like 10 at night. And he was just like, "Hey, how are you? Tell me about your day." And I was like, "Oh my gosh, like all this stuff happened and it was so amazing." It was like prime timing
Mhm.
to get a phone call and have a happy conversation. And I don't know, I was like, he's my inspiration for that. And I was like, okay, who could I call? Like really just
Yeah,
scroll your contacts, click a random name and just
seriously.
shoot him a text. Say, "Hey, I'm just thinking of you. Tell me something about your day." Or my favorite thing to ask is like, "Tell me something you're grateful for." I could ask them what they've been learning lately. So I think I'll create a post and I'll maybe kind of put some questions that you could just start asking your
Yeah.
friends or people just to be a little bit more mindful of them and of yourself too. I think it's helpful to be
Yeah,
reflective.
and I think totally, like, don't be afraid to call up someone you haven't talked to in a long time, even if they're not, like, your number 1 best friend, like, people appreciate that for sure.
Yeah, I think acquaintances have so much potential to become friends, right?
Uh-huh,
So, I don't know. We see
for
so many
sure.
people every day, especially like you're in Vineyard and you go to the 13th ward, there's 500 people there. And literally every week there's someone new I see, or I see someone and I feel so bad that I've forgotten that they've been in the ward for a year and I met them 1,000 times. And I don't know, but taking those little extra efforts of, okay, that is so and so and that's her name and finding
Yeah,
a fact about them or something will make it just that much better. And I know there's so many people
yeah,
and it can feel overwhelming. So just like one at a time, right? One person a day or whatever is best for you in your situations. But awesome. Thank you, Aubree. I love all these
yeah.
thoughts. I love people too. This is something I'm very passionate about as well. So it's super fun to dive into this. Any last things on this point? And then we'll dive into the second one.
Um, and then I think last thing is just, like, when you're trying to make new friends in a new place, just be a good friend even when you don't have a good friend, and
Mm-hmm.
it will come back around eventually.
How have you done that, Ob? And I know you and I know the things you do, but tell the people.
Uh-huh.
Tell the world what you do cuz I admire you for it.
Oh. I don't know, like, I feel like being a good friend looks different for everyone as well, like, it's not like a one size fits all thing, but I feel at least, like and, like, I have moved quite a few times, and so I've been the new kid before, and I've never had, like, this lifelong best friend, but, um, I don't know, for me, like, being a good friend is someone who reaches out to you and is willing to help and willing to talk, but when you're in a new place, I think it is just, like talking to everyone and not, like, passing judgment on who you think will be a good friend. Like, you have no idea, like, which person by the looks of them is gonna actually end up being, like, a really good friend and someone that you really connect with and that you can bond with. 'Cause I think it's really easy to judge people off of just, like, your first impression of them, and so just not doing that, and then just doing your best to talk to everyone and make them feel included, and I think when you try to make other people feel included, they'll do the same for you.
I love that. And I think just being patient in the process. Building a
Yeah,
relationship does take time, and it takes that reciprocation, and part of this podcast too, the purpose is to help others and ourselves build deeper connections too, because if you think about the close relationships in your life that you already have, most of them you've probably gone through something together, right? Like I think
yeah,
your whole family, obviously you do so much with them, but, like, all my mission friends or my study abroad friends, like, we've all gone through these experiences together, and that has bonded us. And so when we kind of
yeah,
see it in that light, we can think about, "Oh, okay, what experiences could bond me with these people I wanna be friends with?" Or, "How can I help other people feel this type of connection?" And it kinda just takes you the next step of having a deeper conversation and not being afraid to go below the surface level.
yeah, for sure. I think I was listening to another podcast recently, and they were just talking about just the idea of getting curious about people and just get curious about people and go below that surface to
Mhm.
see who are these people really, and you're always gonna find something that you connect over.
Yeah, and the last thing, and then we'll jump into the second point, but as we do that, we really take the thought off ourselves, which I find makes me so much happier when I'm less focused on myself. And it's
Oh, yeah.
literally 99% of the time so hard to not focus on yourself because that's just how our brains are wired. And we're thinking about,
Yeah,
oh, is there fruit in my teeth? Or how does my hair look? Or I don't know, like it's really hard to be all in and reflective listening. One thing you
yeah.
could try as you are building relationships is having a conversation and like locking in eye contact and then trying not to say anything. Like we did this for an exercise at some random club at BYU, and they were like,
Mhm.
we all paired up with someone and they're like, okay, tell a story from your childhood. And they're like, the other person, don't say a word, just nod or use whatever body language, but don't say a word. And like sometimes it would kind of
Yep,
stop for a second, but you just like look at them and then they would keep going. So people will open up if you give them the opportunity to. So I love that.
definitely.
So many good,
Yep.
wise thoughts. I love it. All right. Are we ready to dive into wellness?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. And we
It's all
might,
connected,
yeah.
so
And we might circle back around and talk more about friendships too. But why do you love wellness? And how does this tie into what we're talking about?
yeah, so I got my undergrad at BYU in exercise and wellness, and I took a
Nice.
class on mind body health, which was really cool, and there's a few other classes that also talked about this concept of the 8 dimensions of wellness, which I just, like, found fascinating. I was like, "Wow, like, this is it. This is what I think, like, this makes sense to me, like, this seems like something that is, um would really help people." And so the 8 dimensions of wellness are just literally this it's a theory about, like, what makes up the well-being of a person.
Hmm.
And so the 8 dimensions are physical, intellectual, emotional, social, spiritual, vocational, financial, and environmental wellness. So those are there's and it's like a lot. Like, but like everything in your life is kind of covered by these different
Wow.
dimensions
I'll
of
post this in
wellness.
show notes too. And on our Instagram page, you can find these and I'll post some things about them. Okay.
Yeah.
Keep going up.
Yeah, so I just so the idea is that like if all of these are in balance or if you're like focusing on these um at different times, you're gonna overall have a better life, like your overall health and well-being will be better off. And I think it's kind of cool because you can sometimes you just feel off in life, right? Like, I don't know
Oh,
what's
yeah.
wrong. right? Like, we've all felt
Totally.
like that, where you're like, "I don't know what's going on, but,
And
like,
even
I
as a
don't
woman,
feel."
our hormones too affect us like crazy.
Totally, right?
But yeah, I definitely have those off days. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it's kind of nice in a way that you could break it down and say, like, which of these things might be bothering me or be out of balance or like I haven't given enough attention to? Is it something
Mhm.
physical? Is it my hormones? Like, or is
Mhm.
it something like I'm not intellectually stimulated enough right now, or something emotionally is going on, or I'm not dealing with something, or I haven't been spending time with my friends, or I haven't been praying or meditating or whatever your spirituality is,
Yeah.
or there's something off in my job or finances or environment, etc. So like
Yeah.
I think it's kind of a cool like even in a checklist format to like be able
Yeah.
to look and see, is something off with any of these? Is there something I could do about any of these to help my overall all well-being, happiness,
Yeah.
and
So
joy in life?
I'm going to repeat those 8 again. So as we're talking about them, you can keep them in your mind. So it's physical, spiritual, emotional, social, financial, intellectual, occupational, and environmental.
Yeah.
Okay. What else have you learned about these 8 dimensions? I think this is so
Um
cool.
I think it's like so I think a lot of people focus on a few of them, right? Like in our everyday lives. Most
Mhm.
people like understand that like physical wellness is a thing or that emotional wellness or like mental wellness, we might call it, is a thing. But I think we like forget about a lot of these other ones that may be affecting us, like and affecting our well-being. Um
Yeah.
and something I really liked from our like my mind body health class that relates to this is just that like they're literally all connected. And so if your like financial wellness is not doing great, you might have physical or spiritual symptoms of that. Like your body may or your mind
Me.
or your spirit might tell you in another way that something's off, which I think is fascinating that like
Mm.
which makes sense, right? Like, you could feel physically anxious about it, like, your heart might start racing because you're like, "I'm really stressed that, like, I'm not gonna be able to pay rent this month," which is, like, a financial wellness
Yeah.
problem, but your body is
Taking a
also
toll
showing
for it.
signs of that. Yeah.
Yeah, I find it super interesting in the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, instead of like personal progress or duty to God that I grew up doing, they have just like a general youth program and they have for the like half of these categories to
Mhm.
set your goals in. And I think it's physical, spiritual, social, and either intellectual or emotional. But it's cool
Yeah.
that there's 4 more that maybe as we get older, like we definitely need to incorporate in our lives: financial, intellectual, occupational, and environmental. What does environmental mean, Aubree?
That can mean, like, a lot of different things, you know, I we could think about it in terms of like literally the physical environment that you live in your like home. It could also be some things are like not totally in our control, right? It could be like the environmental impact of the city or the country we live in, or if there's things going on. Well, because I just like Ukraine pops into my head and all the hard
Mm,
things
yeah.
that are going
So
on
sad.
in that environment in that country. Like they can't control that, but like that is affecting their lives.
It
And that
affects
is
all 8 of those areas, 100%.
affecting their
Yeah.
well-being, and so it's kind of a bigger one that, like, in some aspects we have less control over than some of the other ones, but you still can you can even just break it down to, like, what environment can you control, whether that be, like, your bedroom and, like, what you have in there and how if you keep it clean or you light a candle, like, I think that's kind
Mhm.
of to me, like, that's an environment that you can control even if there's other parts of your environment you can't.
Yeah. My mom always taught me if your room's clean, then you'll be like godliness is cleanliness. And whenever my room's messy, it takes a toll on my spirituality, my physical, like everything too. So when my
Totally.
room is clean, it's just like you feel so much better about your life and your
Yeah,
wellness goes up. So let's
more
talk more
positive
about,
outlook.
oh yeah, for sure. So I
Mhm.
want, you mentioned in just in our discussions prior to this like looking at these 8 dimensions all together instead of individually, what's the benefit in that? Like, yeah, you could segment them off and go through each of them individually, but how can we more look at them as a whole?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I think they are, like, really cool individually, right? Like, you could just look at, "Let me just look at my financial wellness. Let me just look at this part of wellness. Let me just look at this." But I think the idea is that, like, when when you are aware of all of them and are, like, putting time and attention to all of them, your, like, wellness will increase, like, overall. Like, obviously, each one that
Mm.
you focus on is gonna increase, but, like, knowing that they are all connected, kinda like we were talking about, right? Like, when your room is clean, like, all these other things are affected by it,
Mm-hmm.
and when you're exercising, all these other things are affected by it. So I think just, like, looking at how are they intertwined and doing some self-reflection of, like, how are they intertwined in my life? Like, because everyone's a little bit different of how these things are gonna affect them, and so just seeing how do these things overlap in my life, and what effects do, like, better, like, financial wellness, we keep talking about that one, but, like, better financial wellness or not as great financial wellness, like, what impact on these other areas of my life does that have?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then I just think that is a unique thing about them that you can kind of see how they're all connected,
Yeah.
and helps you motivate helps motivate you to kind of not, like, obviously, you can focus on one at a time because it can be overwhelming to be like, "I need to fix all of these things in
Mm-hmm.
all these different areas," but it can
Yeah.
just be cool to see how they impact other areas of your life.
Yeah. So I feel like the underlying point of doing this is being self-reflective, and I think that is a point more and more people are talking about, people going to therapy are talking about. It's learning to recognize your feelings, catching yourself in situations where you can just kind of say, "Whoa, let's pause my brain here. Let's distinguish, okay, where's this thought coming from?" and then go from there. But then when
Mhm.
we're looking at these dimensions in our life and we're more reflective of it, maybe we set goals, maybe we don't. I don't know. I always set goals and maybe I accomplish like one of them. And
Yeah,
recently I this will be another podcast, but I've talked to a company and their company culture is they don't set goals and they are more about that journey. And the analogy they used is, okay, this is a tangent real fast. If
good.
you are if you like set a goal to drive a mile and you get to that mile marker, then you stop and you evaluate and you're like, okay. But like if you didn't set that goal and if you just like kept driving, then you'd cover more distance instead of stopping and taking
Mhm.
time. So having this reflective mentality, I think helps you accomplish more than if you were to set a billion goals and maybe only accomplish one of them.
Right.
So I feel like I'm transitioning my goals more into like a lifestyle intention idea based thing and
Yeah.
having ideas I feel like the biggest thing in that if you don't have concrete goals is just having a clear vision, but that vision can change weekly, daily, monthly as different things in your life affect you, right? You can't really change your
Mhm.
circumstances sometimes despite what you're trying. I don't know, for me I'm going to get kind of vulnerable and personable for a second. I was actually fired from my job a few months ago, and for we can dive in deeper if you have questions. I can tell you more about it. But all these little things kind of came together, and I was terminated from my job, and it kind of threw me off, probably in all 8 of these dimensions. Honestly,
Right.
it was so shocking, a little traumatic, and I really
Totally.
just like was like, what am I doing with my life? Like, graduated, single, 26 years old. Like, I've been stopped in my tracks, and I've had to really start being more reflective of my whole life. And luckily, it's opened up more time, and I can be more like work on my exercising and things like that. And I've been able to build better relationships with my family and spend more time with them. But I've definitely seen how this emotional, financial toll has taken on me and
Yeah.
even intellectually too, but it's propelled me in a way that I didn't see at first. Propelled me intellectually as I research, and I mean, occupational, right? I think that's kind of this job career based thing, but it's taught me so much, and hopefully I'm coming out of this period in my life. But as I think about these 8 dimensions, I literally can see how every single one of them has been connected the past 3 months, and things like this happen in our lives to build us
Yeah.
and to propel us and make us stronger, and if not break us down a little bit so we can build it up stronger. So
Yeah, I think sometimes
so interesting.
yeah, like, I know, I think sometimes things like that happen in our life, and we can take it 2 ways, right? Like, we could just, like, totally crumble and, like, not build ourselves back up, but, like, what you've done is taken what can you control in that situation and controlled it, right? Like, you've said it, like, helped you be able to focus more on some of these other areas that you could control on a day-to-day basis versus, like, you have been controlling your occupational side by going out on job hunting and, like, going on interviews and stuff, so
Mhm.
you're just controlling what you can do in these areas, but, like, it is in times like that especially that I think you do see how these are all connected, and I just feel like so many of us are unprepared as adults in a lot of these areas, and I, like,
100%.
really, really want to, like, my ultimate goal is to help people do what you can to, like, learn what you can in all of these areas, so when
Mhm.
something like that kind of demolishes one of those areas in your life, you know how to get back from that, and you're
Mm.
not like, "Oh my gosh, like, my life is completely over,"
Oh,
and
I
you're like,
think
"That's
that is
okay," like
so smart. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Just, like, having the tools to deal with it, and if one nice thing is that, like, they are all interconnected, and so if one area is super weak at one time, right, like, you lose your job, so your occupational and financial wellness is, like, not great, you
Mm.
know? But like, um, you have strong other areas, they're gonna support you. Like, it's gonna make it so
Mm.
you don't completely collapse.
Oh,
And so
interesting.
if we focus that's why it's important also to not just focus on just your physical health or just your mental health, but when you're focusing on all these different areas, when one area is kind of not doing as great or a few areas, you have 5 other areas, right? Like, that are also
Kind
lifting
of
you up.
supporting you. Yeah, it's kinda
Mhm.
like your 8 dimensions are your foundation in a
Yeah,
way.
for yeah, they are your
Huh.
foundation and, like,
Yeah.
these things that are going to help prevent a huge crisis. Like, even if there's a crisis, you're gonna be able to move past it and move through it
Living
all
proof of
right.
that. I'm almost out of
Yeah.
this crisis, you guys.
Yes.
And
Yes.
I've learned so much, and that's the point of life, right? To learn and to grow. I think another huge like thing as we evaluate our lives and these dimensions and our wellness, this is another thing I learned from therapy this week, is dealing with making mistakes because we will make mistakes probably in
Yeah.
all these areas. Maybe not
Mhm.
environmental. I guess maybe depending where you move or
Probably.
like that could feel like a mistake, like, oh, moving someplace and having to move back, like,
Sure.
I guess that's environmental, or, like, if I were
Yeah.
to leave Utah, I wouldn't have the mountains, and the mountains to me are, like, my sanctuary, so I have to consider
Yeah.
those things when I am evaluating where I wanna be in my life, but I feel like I've made so many mistakes in these different areas, whether it be, like, social or financial or even spiritual, but the biggest thing to remember is just giving yourself a little bit of grace and, like, Aubree, you were saying, like, relying on these other areas that you do have strength in, like your support groups and people who are good in one of these areas that you wanna be better at, becoming friends with them, like, financially, I've reached out to so many friends and I'm like, "Okay, let's sit down, let's go through it. How do I get this, and this, and this?" Like, people are so smart and are investing their money and know about stocks and
Yeah.
401ks and so many things that I feel like I'm
Totally.
way behind in the game, but so maybe that financial thing's lower for me, but it doesn't mean it can't improve, and it
Totally.
will. I'm hoping a husband in the future can help me with that. But
Yeah.
till then, I wanna like, we need to be like, whole on our own, so I want to be able to learn that on my own, and I need to, because that's my stage of life right now. What do you
Definitely.
feel like Aubree has helped you in these 8 dimensions? Like, do you single them out to learn about them, or how often do you
Mm.
evaluate them in your life?
I feel like I mean, there's definitely times where there's greater emphasis on some of these than others. Like, I feel like this summer, I've probably put more time into my social wellness, which is great because I was a little dry on it from the school year and being so busy and also just, like, having a hard time meeting people and making friends in Idaho.
Yeah.
Finally found a great group, so I, like, invested a lot more time in there. And then obviously, like, doing a master's degree, putting a lot of time into that intellectual wellness. So, like, I think, like, in some ways, like, life just ebbs and flows you to kind of evaluate these, like, naturally and, like, see what you need, and I feel like I use them in a way that they're kind of just always in the back of my mind, and, like, I can just kind of tap into them and be like, "Oh, like, yeah, I think this is what I'm stressed about, and it's in this area.
Mhm.
Is there anything I can do to help myself there? Or is there another area that can help support me while I'm weak in that area?"
Being self-reflective, that is something I am continually trying to build that skill in myself of just like, "Whoa, Nat, like, catch yourself, like, you don't need to be
Mhm.
frustrated about this little thing," or, like, "Whoa, stop, like, where am I feeling a lack in any of these areas? What is
Right.
causing me to have these thoughts and these feelings?" But like you said at the beginning, like, with Mr. Rogers, you have to feel your feelings, and that is, like, one of the
Yeah.
biggest things people have been discovering the past few years, I feel like, and
Yeah.
sitting through the hard. Or another great analogy too is just thinking about your life and if all your experiences were pieces of paper and like hard times, you just kind of crumble it up and throw it in the bin, and then it kind of fills up pretty quickly with all these crumpled pieces of paper. But if you like take the time to like unravel it, then you can lay it flat and then it's like thinner, and you can have those experiences that build you, but there's more room for you to grow and have
Mm.
happier, better experiences. So I love that analogy as I think about these dimensions in my life. Wow, our time has escaped us today. We've talked about this, and when you're passionate about something, time kind of just flies right by. Time flies when you're having
Yes.
fun. Aubree, this has been so much fun. I really have loved talking about this. And the last thing I like to ask people is like, why should others know about this? I feel like this one's pretty self-explanatory, but what's your plug? Like, why should people care?
I, like, would hope that everyone wants to have, like, a happier, like, more, like, joyful life, and so that's why I personally think that everyone should care about this, that, like, our relationships and our friendships and then also our wellness, like, it's all tied together, and our life really will be better when we're focusing on these different things.
Yeah, I love that. I think that is so true. I think my one of my takeaways is the connection between friendships and these 8 dimensions. You can
Mhm.
build friendships as you're trying to build one of these levels. Find someone who is
Yeah.
good at one of
Good
these
at
levels, right? Like find a gym buddy.
right.
That will increase your physicality. Find people you can do a spiritual study group with. Find people who I mean,
Yep.
find a therapist if you need it for your emotional health. Like I'm all for therapy here. I
Totally.
think
Yes.
anyone can
We
benefit.
are pro therapy here.
Yeah. Even if you don't have anything to like necessarily work through, like, I'm always surprised with whatever I figure out to talk about, and I just keep a list of things I wanna talk about and learn about. Socially, get out there, make friends. If you need a friend, you can call me, you can call Aubree.
Yep,
We love
be my
making
friend.
friends. And, Aubree's one of the best friends, and I feel like everything we've talked about, she lives, which is super cool. So, we're so happy you've been a guest, and I hope everyone can think about these 8 dimensions the rest of today and be healthier and be happier. So, thank you, Aubree. Any last words?
Thanks for having me on, Nat, loved it.
Well, everybody stay tuned for next week. I also have a little video that I'm going to post later on this week. It was one that I just had a fun little thought about being passionate. So, look forward to that and spread the light and light the passion. See you guys. Bye.